4 deep up in the Malibu. I slide through where they slide through and serve beef like a drive-through. My crew brings Christ to the alley. I'm a Cali fool, feed him the rock, call it an alley-oop. Yeah, Brody is shanking where I bring the word. Gunshots, holding prayer circles where they stain the curb. We make disciples where they're toting Glocks, cause it's funkier than dolphin socks. The block's hotter than some old steam pots. They rock product till the whole thing drops, chopping and hit the block from old green knots. God's the Father and
welcome everybody to another edition of the Brody File. Glad you're with us. Boy, where do we even begin? There's a debate, then there's a... It is crazy. A month or so to go before the election. Tim Kaine, Mike Pence duking it out in Farmville, Virginia. Quite a debate. Mike Pence looking very presidential. Oh, by the way, maybe 2020 if the 2016 thing doesn't work out. Jennifer Wishon, a.k.a. Jenny in the B block, is in the A block with our report from Farmville.
It started as an even matchup. Two skilled debaters with similar political experience. But it didn't take long for Senator Tim Kaine to demonstrate how he's prepared to be vice interrupter in chief.
I was listening to the avalanche of insults coming out of Senator Kaine a minute ago.
These were Donald.
He says,
hold on a second.
It's my
Governor.
time, Senator.
It is, in fact, the governor's time.
I apologize. This is your 2 minutes.
Thanks. I forgive you.
All right, we are moving on now.
Senator, if your son or my son handled classified information the way Hillary Clinton did, they'd be court-martialed.
That is absolutely false, and you know that.
Absolutely
and you know
true.
that, Governor.
It's absolutely true.
Because the FBI did.
As Kaine worked to paint the Trump-Pence ticket as out of touch, Pence stayed calm, proving why he's important to the ticket. The pressure to perform was on him after Trump's lackluster week. Then in the final moments of the debate, the candidates were asked about their faith. It's something they both talk about more than their running mates. But when Governor Pence shared his thoughts on the sanctity of life, the gloves came off again.
The very idea that a child that is almost born into the world could still have their life taken from them is just anathema to me. And I can't conscience about a party that supports that.
We support Roe versus Wade, and we don't think that women should be punished, as Donald Trump said they should, for making the decision to have an abortion.
Donald Trump and I would never support legislation that punished women who made the heartbreaking choice to end a pregnancy.
And why did Donald Trump say that?
We just never would.
Why did he say that?
Well, look, he's not a polished politician like you and Hillary Clinton. And so,
well, I would admit that's not
come out exactly the way.
Both men say they take their faith seriously.
For me, my faith informs my life. I try and spend a little time on my knees every day.
For Kaine, a person's faith shouldn't dictate public policy.
I try to practice my religion in a very devout way and follow the teachings of my church in my own personal life. But I don't believe in this nation, a First Amendment nation, where we don't raise any religion over the other and we allow people to worship as they please, that the doctrines of any one religion should be mandated for everyone.
The first rule in vice presidential debates is do no harm. We'll see what the polls say in the coming days. Jennifer Wishon reporting from Longwood University.
Jennifer Wishon reporting from Farmville, Virginia, the site of that vice presidential debate. I've got a lot of things to say. It's definitely time for a Brody File commentary. Look, instead of me talking about what I think about right here in the studio, forget that. Let's go to my live shot on the 700 Club because that pretty much sums it up.
David, who won it? I don't think there's any question, but what do you think?
Well, I think it was a knockout for Mike Pence. I don't think there's any question about it. It was a TKO. I believe Tim Kaine needed the smelling salts afterwards even, Pat. I mean, it was pretty nasty. You talked about how Tim Kaine was interrupting all the time, and it really didn't bode well for him. I mean, even as you look at the Democrats and the liberals even reacting to this, they weren't even too happy with the way Kaine approached this. So I don't think there's any question about it. But I think more than that, Mike Pence was really able to weave that campaign narrative, that Donald Trump campaign narrative, not just about making America great again, but this uplifting, conservative, Republican message that, quite frankly, Donald Trump wasn't really able to do much of in that first debate, Pat.
Well, what do you think down the road? Have you been out on the campaign trail? I mean, are there hidden voters that are going to go for Trump that are not declaring themselves yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a closet Trump voter out there. As a matter of fact, I remember Jenna Browder and I were in New York the other day, for the last time for the debate, and we talked to some folks, and they're telling us, shh, we're a closet Trump voter in California, but we don't want anybody to know about it. So the point is, there's a lot of folks out there. If you notice, Pat, Donald Trump's polling is much higher when it's online polling. Why is that? Well, there's anonymity in online polling, and when you have to actually call someone's house and state your name, it's a much different. So I think there might be a tendency for a shock on Election Day. I will say this, that there's a Democrat strategist talking to me privately close to Hillary Clinton's campaign, say they are deathly worried about this silent majority, basically older white male voters who have been disenchanted in the past and may indeed come back for Trump, but aren't saying much right now.
Well, that narrative I heard last night from Kaine that this deal with Iran, which was so terribly flawed in relation to nuclear weapons, the Iranians are going full bore in everything in the world, and well, Hillary Clinton capped that, and they're not going to come with nuclear. And then he said the Israelis supported it. I mean, I couldn't believe that.
Well, there were a lot of falsehoods last night, and that was one of them. I mean, Tim Kaine actually said that Hillary Clinton stopped Iran's nuclear weapon program. And afterwards, Brian Fallon, who is one of Hillary Clinton's spokesmen, echoed that as well, said, indeed, Hillary Clinton has stopped the nuclear weapons program. And I remember, I believe it was Megyn Kelly on Fox News saying, well, hold on, she didn't stop the program at all. So anyhow, there seems to be a lot of stuff that Tim Kaine was saying in that debate last night. And I know folks will say Mike Pence was saying a few things as well, but Tim Kaine was saying a few things, even on immigration, that seemed to be quite a bit of falsehoods to him, where he was talking about how Donald Trump was talking as it relates to immigration, saying that Donald Trump wanted to get rid of all illegal immigrants. Well, actually, what he said, he wanted to get rid of all criminal illegal immigrants. And so there was a lot of stuff that was really not passing the smell test last night. David, thanks. Great analysis, by the way. When we come back, Jenna Browder one-on-one with the governor of North Carolina. He's up against it. Can evangelicals rescue him? The story when we come back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Time now to go to battleground state North Carolina. Huge down there, as Donald Trump would say. Governor Pat McCrory in and up against it. Big challenge down there. Evangelicals, if they don't come to his rescue, then it's game, set, match. It's over. Now, of course, McCrory has been in the headlines because of the HB2 bill, the bathroom bill, if you will. More on that from Jenna Browder, who was there in North Carolina, has this one-on-one with the Gov.
Tonight, a blockbuster clash is brewing over transgender rights and North Carolina's so-called bathroom law.
Breaking tonight, an explosion of violence on the streets.
Protests that erupted in Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's a state making national news.
The shooting of Keith Lamont Scott has shaken the city of Charlotte.
North Carolina, an epicenter of emotional issues felt across the United States.
What do we do? Stand up right now! What do we do? Stand up!
Normally, you go home to escape it all. But even here at the governor's mansion in North Carolina, Governor Pat McCrory can't escape the headlines.
Everyone comes up to me and go, Governor, you must have incredible thick skin when people say pretty cruel things about you and even make threats. And the fact is, I don't.
One of those issues, the so-called bathroom bill. Earlier this year, House Bill 2 became law, requiring North Carolinians to use the public bathrooms and locker rooms corresponding to the sex on their birth certificate, not their gender identity. McCrory and conservatives say it protects women and girls from sexual predators. Liberals say the law discriminates against transgender people. There is immense pressure to repeal House Bill 2. Have you ever considered doing this?
No, not based upon the concept of changing the definition of gender. And House Bill 2 is actually irrelevant now because the federal government has stepped in and ordered the definition of gender to be based upon expression and identity. So this whole focus on one bill is really a diversion, and it's probably going to be re-changed after the election. It's now a national issue, and the national media has no idea, the people in the public have no idea that this issue started by the left. in the city of Charlotte by a very liberal mayor and by the attorney general that I'm running against.
McCrory is up for re-election, and it's a tight race. His opponent, Roy Cooper, is using House Bill 2 to drum up support.
We've seen no leadership from our governor on this issue. He has doubled down on this bad law as our state has taken hit after hit.
It's a major change in our moral fabric, and it deserves debate and deserves discussion, but there's even a lot of pressure on corporations.
Apple and PayPal are among the corporate giants backing out of the state, though not entirely. McCrory says a number are still quietly pursuing opportunities in North Carolina. Groups like the NBA and NCAA have also packed up some of their operations.
Well, you've got to draw the line somewhere, and the entertainment world is very hypocritical on this also. George Clooney, who I love as an actor, after he criticized North Carolina's bill, he went to China to promote his movie. China, whose human rights records are horrible.
How much influence do evangelicals have in North Carolina, and how important are they to your battle you face here?
One thing I've told a lot of people is we've got to have the silent majority to quit whispering. They talk too softly about their support, and they need to speak out now, because what's happening in America and what's happening in North Carolina, the only people you hear from in the media and the only people you hear from protesting in the street or on our universities are people of the very far left who disagree with people of faith in many, many issues. But we are not hearing from the silent majority. They're too quiet right now. And therefore, the impression of the independent voter is, well, the loud people must represent the majority. And we're going to find out this election. It's going to be very, very interesting.
There's no doubt the eyes of the nation will be watching North Carolina to see if evangelicals have enough punch to make a difference. Right now, the jury's still out. Reporting for the Brody File, I'm Jenna Browder.
Jenna Browder in North Carolina. Appreciate it. I was going to say something else. I don't know what else to say. When we come back, Chad Connelly. Look, this guy's running the Republican National Committee Faith Outreach Program. Will evangelicals get there for Donald Trump? The story when we come back. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Time now for our conversation with Chad Connelly. He is the Faith Outreach Director at the Republican National Committee. We had a chance to speak with him while we were in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He is speaking to hundreds of churches around the country, talking to thousands of pastors. He has a sense of what they're talking about when it comes to this election and whether or not they can get behind Donald Trump. Here's some of that conversation. You're on the ground. What's the word on the evangelical street? What's going on with the pastors? You're doing a lot of stuff.
Well, I've been in a lot of states, specifically the battleground states, but I've been in a lot of pastors' conferences in bigger states as well that pastors from the key states come to. And I think there's a new urgency out there. I think pastors are starting to realize this is a choice of one of two, it may be imperfect people, but I got to make one of those choices. Not voting, sitting at home, not an option. Writing in a third party, not an option. We're going to get a candidate and a president then that would not be very friendly to our belief system.
So have you seen some pastors kind of, you say new urgency, start to make a move towards Trump or at least towards this area?
Absolutely.
You have? Okay.
You know, I think the last 30 days, and I kind of do a little rough count in my head, I've been in Colorado, and Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, you know, basically the key battleground states. And I think I've spoken to right at 1,100 and something pastors in that time frame. When you're in a room and you see a Methodist pastor and a Catholic priest and some Baptists and some Pentecostals, your brain goes, man, this thing's coming together. And so it's really been a source of encouragement for me.
I spoke to a pastor in Iowa the other day who said, look, I'm trying to get there, I can't get there, and he talks about, you know, principle, and if what's my flock going to think if I'm going for Trump? And you know, we had this discussion. I'm sure you've had these discussions with pastors. What's that discussion like? What do you say? What do you do?
You know, I started off this job, David, really thinking as a Christian, I want to impress upon people the importance of their biblical obligation to vote. We should vote all the time. We should vote every time there's a poll open for anything, because down ballot, Christians should be in school boards and county councils, all the above. And I understand that they look at it and go, boy, this candidate may not line up with my beliefs exactly. And they have to look at the voter guides and the things like the platform comparisons. But ultimately, they got to realize Jesus is not on the ballot anywhere. And I know that this is kind of cliche, but we're always voting for the lesser of two evils. There are always two people running. We're always going to have to vote for somebody based on something. And let's face it, I don't believe the lines have ever been more clearly marked than they are today. Mr. Trump and the Republican Party platform certainly, without question, represents the things that we as believers stand for and stand on. And the other party doesn't.
You've been around these neck of the woods for a while. There's always been a frustration with evangelicals just either not showing up or, I mean, they could tip the scales. They are the silent majority who, the other day, Governor McCrory whispering, saying, could you have a louder voice? How frustrating has that been for you? And take me through let me put you on the psychological couch here a little bit. How does that make you feel?
I was about 12 when I realized not to base things on decisions, but on feelings. But when I got this job, Reince Priebus, the chairman, who's a believer, who's become a very close friend of mine, our conversations centered around this very thing. I believe the faith vote, the church-going vote, the evangelical vote, everybody's got a different categorization for it, has always been the most underappreciated, misunderstood, underrepresented vote. Barna says about 82 million people sitting in churches on a Sunday. 30 couple million voted in 2012. 6 million of those 32 million voted for a guy who disagrees with us on life, who lied to us about marriage, because God didn't change his mind on marriage. Barack Obama did, and I guess when he said that it was part of his Christian faith, he set that up. Who betrayed us on Israel. We can go right down the line. And so when you start realizing that 82 million, only 30 couple million voted, somewhere, no matter who defines it, no matter how they categorize it, somewhere between 40 and 50 million people sitting in churches don't bother to vote. That's very frustrating to me as a Christian.
Chad Connelly here on the Brody File. All right, when we come back, an interview with Star Parker. She's conservative, African-American, and pushing back on the liberal narrative when it comes to the war on poverty. We're back in a moment. Welcome back to the Brody File, everybody. Well, look, she is fighting poverty one policy at a time. Meet Star Parker, the conservative founder of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. It's called CURE. The Brody File sat down with Parker at her D.C. offices to learn a little bit more about CURE and how she's working to tear down the walls of poverty and the welfare state. Have a look.
I think God selected me because of my story. My personal story would make an impact on people that are still struggling through who they're going to be based on some of the public policies that have come forth that have loosened the rules. I believe that policy shapes opinion, opinion shapes behavior, and that's what began to happen to me by just simply believing the lie of the left. I heard that my problems were somebody else's fault, that America was inherently racist, so I shouldn't mainstream, that poor people were poor because wealthy were wealthy. And in believing all of those lies early in life, I began to shape a worldview that was just reckless, and I was engaged in criminal activity and drug activity and sexual activity in and out of abortion clinic after clinic. And then finally, after a gut instinct way down deep inside that there must be something wrong with killing your children, I was pregnant again, and that's when I had a child out of marriage and ended up on welfare permanently at that point. I've been in and out of the system. It's how I paid for all of my abortions. It's how I kept my livelihood going. Just really out of control. And then I had this child out of marriage and met some Christian people, and after a Christian conversion, I just changed my life and began on the course for more responsibility. I then went to college, I got my degree, and I ended up in business. And after the '92 riots destroyed my business in Los Angeles, I knew that I wasn't alone when it came to people that just got lost. And so I felt that maybe I can make a contribution, not just in individuals' lives. I still work very closely with women that are struggling through welfare, but also in public policy. If we change policy, then maybe we could change behaviors and change opinion about what the real answer to poverty is. And so I, 10 years ago, came to Washington, D.C. and started building a policy institute. We look at market-based solutions to fight poverty, but if you ask, well, what exactly is your core mission? Well, we address issues of race and poverty through a Christian conservative perspectives. So we have 3 centers. We have a media center, so we get the message out that the answer to poverty is freedom and personal responsibility, that it's not a welfare state. We have a clergy network so that we can inform pastors about what has broken down the damage of the welfare policies in their communities and what needs to be done to fix it. And then we also have a public policy center where we actually work here on Capitol Hill with legislators that are looking to change the dynamics of what we've been doing in welfare. You know, most people don't know we spend over $900 billion a year on means-tested welfare programs. $22 trillion has been invested in this war on poverty since the 60s, and poverty rate hasn't changed, but family life has. Now we've broken family life just by subsidizing people's ill behaviors. There is a despair that there is a lack of self-initiative and incentive to set goals when you're in a system that says we have all the answers, don't worry about your life. I lost myself in that, and I know too many others that are very lost in it, while you're looking at the rules of welfare. Don't work, don't save, don't get married, and we'll just kind of keep you enslaved to this poverty plantation, and you lose yourself. And I've had to tell many women that are in the seat where I was that their fate is not their destiny, that the set of circumstances they were born into do not have to determine how they die. And so it's a matter of setting goals for your life. What CURE is doing through our Clergy Center and our Media Center is launching an information source. We already have a blog, blackcommunitynews.com, and what we're doing is adding more content so that we can give a regular diet to that Black Christian conservative so that they can have more understanding about what is happening in public policy. Because as I said already, public policy shapes our public opinion, and public opinion then shapes our private behaviors. We would not have 1 million abortions in this country if a policy didn't change. Policy changed to say there's nothing wrong with killing your offspring, and so more people started saying, well, maybe there's nothing wrong with it, and the next thing you know, you have more people participating. So we need to change policy. So we're starting a television show, a weekly show, to give our market, our target group, a regular diet of information so that they can make better choices, not just in the political sphere, but so that we can be a voice for them here in Washington when they're looking at issues that matter most to their communities.
Star Parker here on the Brody File. Good conversation. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Hey, before we leave you, just want to say this has been a crazy election season. I'm going to send all my Christian therapist bills to Donald Trump. I don't know if he'll pay for them. Maybe they're going to be audited if they're part of... Just kidding. A little audit humor. All right, anyhow, check us out. We're all over the place. I don't even know where we're going next. Just keep it here. But we're all over the place. Where? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Should we get on Snapchat? We'll do Snapchat. I don't know. We're going to be everywhere. Trust us. Boy, when is this campaign season going to be over? It's coming to a close very soon. That's it for this week, everybody. Until next time, God bless. Have a great week.